Hi everyone, Azriel Knight here, and in this episode I'm going to tell you why the Pentax ME Super is my main 35mm camera. Today won't be about first impressions because I've actually been shooting with this camera for over a year. I've actually previously come across ME and ME Supers, but they were in not working condition, and only recently did I come across working copies. So what I did is I had a good one and a not so good one, and I sold the not so good one, and then I had a good one and a better one, and I sold the good one until, and I did that a couple of times until I came across this one, which with the 24mm f3.5 lens came to a total of 40 CAD. It's not a perfect camera. It's 1 o'clock. It's not a perfect camera. It does overexpose at the higher shutter speeds, which is a common issue, by the way. A couple of rolls have also given me light leaks, but I haven't been able to pinpoint where exactly. Nonetheless, I bought some replacement seals, and in the meantime, I can shoot at lower speeds and keep the camera stuffed into my bag as sort of a workaround. I know this is a deal breaker for some people, but for me, I'm just happy using the lower shutter speeds and keeping it stuffed in my bag out of light until the issues are resolved. I asked you guys on Instagram which 400 speed film I should shoot with this week, and you guys said Kentmere, so that's the one I shot with. Unfortunately, it expired in 2013, so I won't be doing any first impressions of any kind, but today is about the camera anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Just like in previous weeks, I headed out of town. Let's take a look. Today, I've made my way to Rockyford, Alberta, just east of Calgary, probably about an hour outside of the city. Population, so it's considered a village. It's actually bigger than the last place I was at. I can't even, oh, right, Hussar. Hussar was the name of the last place I was at. I have with me a Pentax ME Super. I also brought a 24mm lens as well as a 135. The weather today is good. Things have warmed up. All the snow is gone and the birds are chirping and all that shit. I'm really looking forward to what I can find today though, because I'm using my main camera and lenses that I'm familiar with. Right, okay, so with all that, I'm going to take my walkabout and see what I can come up with. After I got about 2/3 through my roll, I decided to drive around, see if there was anything else, and maybe head to another town or shoot some farms on the way back home. But when I got in the car and started driving, I noticed the sound of what seemed like a giant rock stuck in my tire. After stopping a couple times and not finding anything, I figured the best course of action was to hit the highway and hopefully speed will shake whatever it is loose. And it did. But just like a knife in the chest, pulling it out meant that the tire was now gushing air, and in a couple minutes I had to pull over. It was bad, worse than I thought. I didn't want to change the tire on a narrow and uneven road. Well, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere with a flat tire. And right now I'm attempting to fill the tire back up with air, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be unsuccessful, but I figured I'd try anyway. So I'm going to fill it up as much as I can and then wait 10 minutes to see how quickly it deflates, or if it deflates at all. I did get a hold of my wife's voicemail, so there's that. fuck. I guess I should check on the tire now. After a chat with the wife, the plan was to get back into Rockyford. The tire held long enough to make it back into town, and even ground. I swapped it for the spare, but not before encountering this adorable and bow-legged cat. How are you? Aw, such a good girl. Or boy. Have you come to give me cuddles? It's because I got a flat. Yeah. See you later, buddy. Then I made my long, slow trek home, while pissing off many a driver. The spare was on the right front, and I was in the slow lane. You could not see the spare, so most people would have no idea why I had my hazards on, doing 85 in a 110 zone. In hindsight, I would have stuck the bad tire in the back seat for people to see. Now that that's all out of the way, here are today's highlights. And as a bonus, here's some photos I've taken with the ME Super over the last year. The following are some reasons the Pentax ME Super is my main man. I should say that some of these reasons are more related to the Pentax brand or circumstances related to my situation. If you're already settled on Pentax and don't know what model you want, or if you're just looking for my point of view, this might help. First is the size. The camera size is super compact, excuse the pun. Here it is next to my K1000. Here it is next to a point and shoot. I think this is the main reason people love this camera. Next are the lenses. Now, one of the reasons I picked the Super is I had a complete line of prime lenses from using my K1000, but I also think the mount is superior, and the reason is because of just how easy it is to get the lens on and off. Here's a trick. This part sticking out goes roughly in the 7 o'clock position. I don't even look for the dots anymore, and if I needed to, I could do it in the dark. Pentax makes great primes, and it's easy to fit 1 or 2 in your pocket. Also, the thread size tends to be the same, so less filter adapters if that's your thing. One of the things that I'm not a huge fan of are the buttons on the top. I don't like the way I have to adjust my shutter speed. I don't like the way I have to change modes by pushing down on this tiny little white button. And I'm also not a big fan of the exposure compensation or how they lay out the numbers. What do I mean by lay out the numbers? Well, let's take the Nikon FE for example. It doesn't say ×1, ×2, ×4. It says 0, -1, -2, +1, +2. Something that's easier for the brain to wrap around when you're thinking about exposure. Ultimately, I had to settle on something The amount of cameras I used to have was paralyzing, and by the time I had my shit together with my gear, the day was over. For me, this year, 2019, is about shooting with one camera per format, and getting really good with those cameras. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider joining me on Patreon. Through my Patreon, you'll get things like newsletters, early access to episodes, and your name in the credits. To learn more, go to patreon.com/Azriel. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And until next time, stay classic. I would also like to take a moment to thank a Mr. J. Potter for his direct donation of $35 USD through PayPal. Thank you very much, Mr. Potter. Definitely going to good use. I believe I spent it all on film.